Greetings, all of the followers of Crucian Kitchen Creations, also known as the Creative Crucian Kitchen. So what we're going to be doing today is making dumb bread. Especially again from St. Croix, you may have heard this term already and may have certainly eaten dumb bread in your life. I know that I have. And all my life I thought it was a special kind of bread. And my father said to me, dumb bread is basically just baked Johnnycake. I said, what? So I go to the holy grail of Crucian cooking. Allow we cook, and this is by Miss Amy Mackay. The allow we cook means let us cook. Let Allah we cook. Let us cook. And this is by Amy Mackay. This is the holy grail of authentic Crucian recipes. For Crucians, this is the book that we look to. This is a little difficult to get if you don't have an original copy, but it's not impossible. So I went to this book on the whole dumb bread issue because I believe I have mastered my Johnnycake recipe. So I go to Johnnycakes, and my father is exactly right, because there are two recipes for Johnnycakes here. It says Johnnycake, and this says fried Johnnycakes. There it is. How it got to be called dumb bread, I don't know. Maybe because it's so easy. Maybe because you don't have to let it rise for a very long time. But as Miss Mackay describes this, the homemaker didn't have an oven and needed bread in a hurry. Johnnycakes were the answer. The cake-like dough was put into a heavy skillet, covered and cooked over a wood or a coal fire. And then basically you bake it. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to get our ingredients together using my Johnnycake recipe, which the foundation of which is from here. Right now, what we're going to do is we're going to get our ingredients. Okay, here we have our baseline ingredients, the dry ingredients for Johnnycake. We are making dumb bread, which is the baked version of the Johnnycake dough versus the fried little small pieces. This is going to make a loaf. And so what's in here are, for my recipe, I use 4 cups of flour, I use 3 to 4 tablespoons of baking soda, there's 1/3 of a cup of sugar in here, and a teaspoon of salt. And what we have to do is sift these together. Now that's only part of the sugar that's going to go in, because there's a little bit more sugar that we're going to cream together with the butter. For now, we're going to sift it. And here's the easiest way I've found to sift dry ingredients. So this is the easiest way to sift. See how it just goes down beautifully? It's not a mess. When you do the old-fashioned way of sifting, you can get powder, flour all over the place, and it takes a while with the hand sift for it to go down. But just do this and you'll be all right. It also helps break up chunks. And then when the last is done, then you're in it. Now look how I'll zoom in on that. Look how smooth and velvety that flour is. That's what you want. Okay, we're ready to do the next step with our other ingredients, and that is with the butter and the sugar that we're going to cream together. This calls for a 1/4 pound of butter. Now when I'm making Johnnycakes, I usually don't use a whole 1/4 pound of butter, which is 1 stick, because there's other oil and stuff that goes into it. But with dumb bread, you need, or baked Johnnycake, you need the whole 1/4 pound, which is a stick. See, 4 ounces. 4 times 4 is 16. 16 ounces a pound. So 1 stick. So just use a softened one. So I'm going to put the softened butter in here and the rest of the sugar in here, cream it up, and then we throw it in there and mix it. You might be thinking to yourself, why don't I just cream this butter and sugar into, let me move my dish rag, and using a blender? You could do that, but that's a whole lot of work. What I'm trying to show to everyone is that we can make traditional meals, and sometimes using the old ways to make them are the best. Sometimes new technology, it can be helpful, but then sometimes it's just unnecessary and messy. So I personally don't see the need to get a whole blender and a separate bowl to cream your butter and sugar, when it just takes elbow grease, soft butter, sugar, a fork, and a glass. And that's how your cream butter should look. Creamed sugar and butter. See, it looks a little grainy, but that's okay. And if you gave it a lick, that's exactly what it would taste like, butter and sugar. This is creamed together. We are going to dump this into here, and we're going to mix it with our hands. So before I mix the butter into the flour mixture with my hands, I just want to take a moment to shout out to some VI business. I really feel like I got these at IB Designs, but I know that this is from IB Designs because I really wanted to make it into a pendant, and I sent it to IB, and I love how he did it. I love how he kept the simplicity. For those of you who don't know that part of our culture, Cheney stands for China and money. As my dad explained it to me, they would use this as money when they were kids. They would trade Cheney. Now, and it was super abundant, and now if you find Cheney, you really have to dig for it, or you have to go diving for it. So I was extremely lucky to have found this piece. Cheney is important because it's connected to two particular parts of life in the VI under the Danish West Indies. This is your history stitch. When the ships came over from Denmark, you know, you have to have the ship balance on the sea using ballast. That's something heavy to keep the boat balanced. And that was China dishware. They would oftentimes just offload the china by dumping it into the water there at the dock, so kids could, you know, get it that way. But the other way you can find Cheney is in the ground. Dig for Cheney in areas where we had rebellion. I bought a piece of Cheney for my friend. Cheney that I bought her was dug straight from the area where the Cotton Hill Rebellion began. Love the idea of holding the Cheney because that means somebody, one of my ancestors, directly or indirectly, touched the reason, whether they were unloading a boat or whether they were sending the signal that it's time to set shit on fire. That's how we Crucians do. But let's get back to the So the first thing I've done is I've cleaned my hands very well, scrubbed under my nails, cream butter and sugar mixture, and I'm putting it in with the rest of the dry mixture. Again, what was already in here was flour, salt, baking powder, and sugar. Try to scoop from underneath. Try to rub your hands like that to get the extra butter. You're essentially going to end up seeing a somewhat beady or grainy dough. I believe that all of the butter has been incorporated. See that? See how it's not necessarily as smooth as it was when I first sifted it, because now it's got the butter in it. Okay, so you can see a chunk right there. So next move is to add the liquids, and we're going to start to roll this out. Thank you, Cameron. Okay, now in goes our warm milk and water mixture. Do not put it all in at once. You start it. All right, you feel like dough. It's nice and warm. When things start to get a little too dry, then you add a little bit more of your milk. Okay, this is what it looks like, almost like a cookie dough. Yeah, this is what it should look like. It should feel tacky. It should look sort of lumpy, if you will, because this isn't the last stage. Do not add any more water or flour to it, because now we're about to knead it. What we're going to need is a clean surface, which we already have. Our marble top counter has been cleaned off. We're going to sprinkle it with we're going to sprinkle the clean surface with flour, and we're going to knead the dough. We have set our oven to heat up at 350, so it's preheating, as you can see. And then what we're going to do right before we knead this dough is something very important, which is to oil the pan that is going to bake in. Okay, so we have here a cast iron pan, trying to be as true to form as original recipe and original. The more we're able to do that, the more we're able to maintain some authentic flavors, but also, again, doing this in a modern style where we don't have a lot of time. So I'm being real bougie right here. I am using this wonderful little brush that, believe it or not, I got at the dollar store. Yes, it is a silicone brush that works perfectly when you have to grease a pan. And all right, here we go on our nice clean surface. Let's spread some flour around. This is the way I do it. I kind of do it lightly, and I keep this little pile over here because you just might need a little bit more. And then you're just going to dump, if it will, your dumb bread out. So it's sticky, so what's the first thing you gotta do? Right? And how do you knead your dough? This is how you knead it. You want to knead it so that it's smooth. So you're kind of pushing it into itself. You're feeling it sticky, you tap your hands, and there's plenty of room for, I don't want to say error, but don't freak out too much if you're like, oh, I'm adding too much flour. Just go gently with it, because this dough is sticky and wet, and you've got to knead it. So it's going to take a while because you want to knead it until it's smooth. And again, it's just about, oh, that's the oven going off saying that it's ready. So this is perfect timing. So you're just going to knead it. And when it's all kneaded and smooth, I will show you. Not as lumpy as before, but we still have some kneading to do. We don't want to add much more flour, but again, we want to knead it till it's smooth. So a little trick that I learned, again, from my friend at the Crucian Kitchen on Facebook, is when she makes her Johnny cake, she adds a little oil into the dough, and that really helps give it a silky texture. So that's what I've done here. You are free to do it. I just used a little canola oil. It's light, it's not too heavy, and that's what, a capful, just about. So let's keep kneading. Okay, so while I'm hard at work still kneading my dough, let me just give you a little bit of background if I can. Great thing about dumb bread, unlike Johnny cakes, is that you don't have to let them rise. Sorry about that little cabinet. You don't have to let them rise. When you make Johnny cakes, you have to let them rise, not once but twice. Dumb bread is a Johnny cake recipe, but you do not have to let it rise. Once you have finished kneading, you can literally put it in the dough. So essentially, like Johnny cakes, this is almost like a quick soda bread, like an Irish soda bread. Flour, baking soda, salt, sugar. There's no yeast in this, is the point that I'm making. And that's what Irish soda bread is famed for. And there's also a Scottish bread that does that too. So how did we get our hands on this type of cooking technique? Well, we certainly brought skills from Africa in our cooking and making different types of starches or breads, but we cannot forget the influence of the estate managers, the plantation, well, it's really the estate overseers, let's just be real. Most of them were of Irish and Scottish descent, which is probably why you see a lot of Irish and Scottish names in St. Croix and throughout the VI. The Danes didn't do the dirty work. They didn't get out there in the field and beat people. You know, we cannot dismiss the African ingenuity that went along with helping to develop this type of bread, which is where I want it to be now, just about. And you can't deny that, but we also can't deny that we picked up or had to use cooking techniques and recipes that were familiar and palatable to the Europeans. Here's my dumb bread dough. I still feel like it can be smoother, and I'm gonna go for it. I'm just going to just give it just another little knead. Okay, and that's it. And now I'm gonna be ready to put it in my pan. Okay, oven is hot at 350. Dumb bread dough is ready to go in. Pan is greased. And so now what you're gonna do according to Miss Mackay and how we cook, is you're gonna press from the middle and you're just gonna push it out. And guess what? That is going to be just about it. You're gonna throw it in the oven for 15, maybe 20 minutes, and you're gonna have hot Johnny cake, otherwise known in St. Croix and probably other parts of the VI as dumb bread. Let me show you just how it's looking in the oven. I put the timer on for 15 minutes. I'm looking at it, raised nicely. I'm not ready to take out because, as you can see, it still needs to cook a little bit more. All right, so we're gonna put that in there. We're gonna check it another 10 minutes, okay? Okay, the dumb bread is out of the oven. See, it's gotten much darker on the side. Now, why is this piece kind of stuck out? Well, you have to test. You can't assume once you throw it in there it's going to be perfect. So I cut a piece. Even though I did my stick test, right, and it came out clean, it seemed it was ready, I said, let me cut in. And when I cut in, the bottom still needed a little bit more cooking. But once you've perfected your timing and your ingredients and stuff, there's no problem. There we go. It smells so good. It's like this weird combination of cake and really good bread. You want to slide it back that way, folks. You see, it is still very hot, but you see how it crumbles like a cake, and yet it tastes like bread. Take long. If you're an early riser, you know, you could do this for the morning. It's really, really good with cheese. That's how it's traditionally served. I can't stop. This, it just takes me right back. You can smell it. When you smell it, it reminds, think back to when your granny or your auntie was cooking, and you would smell these beautiful, delicious smells of sugar and butter and, you know, pet milk cooking or what have you. It's so good. It's just so good. Please make it. Please make it. And especially if you have a child who's growing up in the States, try to make this. It's a really quick, easy way to start to introduce them to some of our tradition. And if your kids like cheese, throw a cheese in there. They're gonna kill it. Pair this up with some stewed chicken or a regular American, just like some pot roast, right? Have your American style pot roast and your Crucian style dumb bread on the side. Just soak it up. And I don't stop eating this bread you enjoyed today. Dumb bread is something different, and it is very, very authentically Crucian and Virgin Islands, and how we would serve it up. Nice and warm with some cheese. Some kids like jelly. I used to like to put damson preserves on mine. So many endless possibilities. So thank you again for tuning in. Please be sure to like and share this video with anyone you think would be interested in learning how to do this. So don't forget to like and share. I'm really proud of what we made here, and I hope that you'll be able to do it. And I know that if you do, you're going to enjoy it. Thanks. I'll see you next time.